as I currently work as a guardian ad litem in Ireland. And what we do is we represent the voices of children in court. Typically, I suppose I work with children in foster care, and I suppose look at supporting their contact with their birth families, but also supporting them to develop secure attachments in foster care and to build connections with their foster carers. I suppose over the course of my experience, I started as a social worker in child protection and fostering in 2005. And I did a very short course in play therapy for a few days. And I found that using play to meet with children really, really enhanced my work on many levels with children. It made it a lot more comfortable and a lot more child-centered and a lot more exciting for the child. In 2000, 1 year later, I started a diploma in play therapy. And again, I just couldn't believe how positive that was for my practice with children and families. And I started a PhD then the same year I started the PhD in 2008 when I was finishing up the play therapy diploma. So in 2008, the PhD looked at supporting social workers and practitioners working with children to use play to build relationships with children and to learn about their lives in that child-centered and fun way. So that brought me to 2012. And in 2012, I had my own first child as well. And I started thinking about then more about not really professionals working with children, but more then I just moved on to the importance of connection and attachment between a child and their parent. Because as I learned in 2012, parenting is, it's very hard. And that made me think, oh my God, this is, it's so hard when it's your own child. And then how difficult is it for parents who have mental health problems or who have had difficult upbringings themselves. And then also looking at foster carers, how difficult is it just to take over the parenting of a child and to build connection and to build attachment. And one thing that I suppose remained a constant for me was the power of play in supporting caregivers to build attachment with their child and for the child to feel loved and valued and fun. Following that, I then wrote the national programme in Ireland for child and family social workers working with children and families around attachment. And I suppose the key thing for me was I had done a PhD that looked at attachment, and I still felt that I couldn't describe attachment in a simple way. And I was training social workers nationally, and I found that even the most experienced practitioners who had been to attachment training many times struggled with talking about attachment and linking it to their practice. So that became a real focus for me, was how do we explain these important concepts and theories that we need to support children and families? How do we do it in an easy way, if especially practitioners are struggling to describe it in interviews or in assessments? So I suppose that then, I've done a lot of work in that and a lot of research. I'm publishing other stuff on that at the moment, which hopefully will follow what we're going to discuss in this seminar. But I suppose that brought us on to the publication of the Everyday Guide to Attachment, Play, Connection and Emotional Release, which I'm going to talk about. I'm trying to flick slides here. It's not moving, Vesna.
Yes, did you click with your mouse or with on the laptop?
Next, okay, I'm trying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Good, great.
Okay, so So last year during the COVID-19 pandemic, when we were all in lockdown, I was learning through colleagues and friends and through my own experience of being at home on a full-time basis, no school, no childcare or anything, how hard it is to work as well at the same time, be in good form. And I really wanted to use the opportunity of, as well, my own children being out of school, and to try, amidst the concerns of the pandemic and not having childcare and trying to get work done, trying to be positive. And I know a lot of parents, foster carers, were in similar situations. So I contacted some colleagues of mine who helped me with the guidebook and have been inspirational to me throughout my work to write some chapters and to really link their practice with children and families to the theory that we all felt really passionate about. So I suppose what we looked at in the guidebook was helping to look at a simple way to look at understanding attachment, then connection, and what is different with connection. So we will look at that in the slideshow, but also then play being an important factor in building connection and building attachment. Then how we look at emotional release for children. I suppose this has become, as I've said, I'm a play therapist as well, but what I've learned through having my own children is how emotions build up in children, and that's when we see challenging behaviours, frustration, and as parents, too often we jump in to give out to the child, put in place timeouts or rewards or punishments, where what I have learned, and I really believe now, is that we really need to help them express all the emotions that build up and that cause them to act out in ways that we don't like and that cause difficulties. And again, play is there in the middle, because play for me, again, is the process by which children can be best supported to release their emotions, as well as the natural emotions that present, such as crying, screaming, raging, but how we help children release that buildup without punishing them or giving out to them. And then I have trauma. I probably won't be getting into too much into trauma today, but I will be mentioning it, but again, how children can be supported to heal from either minor traumas or major traumas through play. Okay, so firstly, I'm just really going to look at attachment very, very quickly and simply, again, because I know me and other practitioners, countless numbers of practitioners that I engaged with over the years doing research and training would have, again, I felt, struggled to understand, I suppose, the core meaning of attachment and to link it to their practice. So something that changed for me, I suppose I was always, if someone asked me about attachment, I was always thinking about the secure base, the relationship that lasts across a lifetime and the importance of that. So at each stage of development, the infant must experience a close attachment with the consistent caregiver to ensure safety and protection when faced with internal changes and environmental stimuli. And for me, as a social worker back a few years ago and a researcher, the two words that helped me connect attachment to my child protection practice were safety and protection. They were just not words that had been kind of presented much in the theory and highlighted and used a lot. And when I learned that the primary function of attachment was to ensure safety and protection, that really helped consolidate the theory with my work, and it helped me be able to use the theory better in my child protection practice. So again, attachment is essential to survival, and a child needs to, it's important that a child develops a secure attachment to feel safe and protected in the world. So the primary function of attachment is to seek protection and to communicate at intuitive and automatic levels. A child needs to develop a secure attachment to reach their full potential. And I know in Ireland, the Child and Family Agency, which is responsible for child protection social work, their ethos is that every child is safe and that every child has the opportunity to reach their full potential. So again, I suppose that really links as well with attachment theory: safety, protection, and ability to reach their full potential. Because when children are in unsafe relationships, they're not safe, they're not protected, and their development is compromised. A secure attachment supports a child to think logically and make sense of the world. They can recognize their feelings and develop a conscience. They can feel self-reliant at the right time. Again, they would say healthy dependence. You know, I know as parents as well, and with grandparents, there's a big rush to get children to be independent. But again, the literature would say, you know, healthy dependence is good until, you know, a certain age, 3 or 4, and then you're encouraging more things. So a secure attachment helps deal with feelings of jealousy, and there's no need to compete with others to feel love. It can help develop a complex vocabulary to express emotions and devise efficient response mechanisms. So again, the attachment behaviours are seen as a result of how the caregiver responds to the child. Again, if the caregiver is responding negatively or inappropriately to a child, that's when we see children either withdrawing, becoming quite silent, or else their behaviours become very exaggerated, where they could be getting very clingy or screaming at the caregiver to have their needs met. The primary benefits of attachment. I mean, so firstly, the primary benefit of attachment is survival. It's protection from danger. And again, then in that relationship, there's the supply of food. And then thirdly, when those pieces are in place, when the child is safe, the social interaction that promotes learning about the people, relationships, and the self. So in terms of biology and evolution, the most basic of these is protection from danger. Because if the child fails to survive, the other two benefits are redundant. And I suppose that's something that helped make a lot of sense for me, because it was all the talk about attachment and the relationship. But again, the child has to survive first and feel safe. And within that relationship, then they benefit from all of the benefits and of a secure attachment relationship, such as what I talked about earlier, having the potential to think logically and to reach one's full potential. And again, just before I go on to this slide, again, something that I really wanted to start to look and explain attachment simply and to understand it was, you know, the term attachment, and I still continue to see it every day in my work in the courts, in my work at like meetings for children, and just in discussions with professionals. Like the term attachment seems to be just misused a lot. You know, a common phrase that I would hear is that mother has no attachment with her children. And, you know, that would be cited as a concern, but it is true that a mother wouldn't have an attachment with her children and shouldn't have an attachment with her children, because the child develops a secure attachment. So the child needs to receive safety and protection and have their needs met from the mother. The parent, or the father, the parent should not be looking to have their needs met from the child. Again, that might change in the later years. I know David House speaks about attachment across the life course, and maybe when, you know, you become elderly and your children are taking care of you, then, I mean, that's the time it should change. But otherwise, if we have a child caring for their parents, then that is seen as problematic, and that is an issue within child protection. So what we would say is the parents bond with their child. So the parent has a strong bond with the child, or the parent has no bond with the child. We don't refer to the parent's attachment with the child. It is the child's attachment with the adult, the caregiver, so the foster carer or the parent. So the broader concept of connection is different to that of attachment. So in his book, Playful Parenting, Lauren Cohn states, and again, this is just a really important reference, and it's one I would strongly recommend people try and look at or get. It's Playful Parenting by Larry Cohn. And you can get that on audiobook or in a paperback. And it's one of my Bibles that I listen to nearly every month on audiobook when I'm driving around. So Larry Cohn would say, connection is easily recognizable, but hard to define. Perhaps because we experience it in so many different forms at different stages of our lives. When babies are born, connection is defined by eye contact, smiles, and physical contact. Cohen talks about the importance of connection at this early stage to optimize connection throughout the relationship. And we all know when parenting is going well with the child that connection occurs very naturally to a lot of people. They look at the child, they engage with the child, and it all seems very natural. But for those of us working in child protection, we also see where connection doesn't occur naturally at all for a parent, and a parent can be quite frozen themselves emotionally. And we can see then how a child's development is affected when their parent isn't connecting with them. So he talks about caregivers being able to play with and hang out with their children and to enjoy each other's company. Cohen describes how the next level is a more casual connection, an unspoken bond that may be noticed only when it's gone, replaced by conflict or distance. And I think that's something, most of us can relate to, is you can see when a parent is connected with their child, but again, you can also see, and you can feel yourself as a parent, and it will happen all of the time. There's sometimes you're more connected to your child, and then there are other times work is taken over, external stressors, and you're not connected to your child. And you can, and it may take a few days or a few weeks to actually notice that. And then hopefully, within good enough parenting, when that is noticed, that, a parent will make more efforts to connect with their child, and the breakup in connection is repaired. And that, and that's the same with attachment, and that will happen in all relationships, is that, no one is going to be the perfect parent available and connected all of the time. And as a parent, we're all, foster carers, birth parents whose children are in care, we're all going to experience moments where we are not connected. But the important piece from an attachment and a child development perspective is the repair when that connection is broken or has dissipated. So connection for children is an important need. And when they feel disconnected from their caregivers, this often results in challenging behaviours. I mean, again, speaking as a parent, that is when I know if I'm, especially when you think of the pandemic and lockdown, if you've the telly on and you're trying to get work done and there's not as much play, there's not as much fun, there's not as much connection. That's when your child starts like kicking off, demanding stuff. You're getting frustrated in return. You're saying, you're not going for your walk, or you're not doing that next week, or you're not doing whatever. But again, really and truly, whenever we can think of it, and if we can support our parents that we work with and our foster carers, like they do say, we should be coming in with connection. I know they say connection before correction, but I always say connection before correction, and connection before threats of punishment or discipline as well. Because again, your child doesn't want to be frustrated. Children don't want to be frustrated. They don't want to be annoyed. They want to cooperate. They want to be in a content place. But when they're feeling disconnected from their caregiver and when they need their caregiver, that's the times when we see them kicking off, starting to frustrate and demand things. And again, hopefully in, good enough parenting and good enough homes, that can be tapped into and repaired. But for some children, that isn't repaired. And that's when I believe the behaviours are escalating. And that happens with foster carers too. I mean, sometimes we have foster carers who are very good at meeting the basic needs of the child. They give them their meals, there's a routine in the house, they go to school, they go to their soccer, they go to their football, but then the child is having the behaviours. And I mean, it is my opinion that most foster carers need a lot of support around emotionally supporting children with trauma. I think most parents require support tapping into learning how to connect with their children and just little reminders. But again, for a traumatized child, routine and having your basic needs met is not enough. Like and again, the guide that we pulled together as well was particularly for foster carers as well, around the connection and the play. And the building of a secure attachment and helping the child to heal and helping the child to trust in new relationships. So again, foster care has to be more than structure, routine, and children having their basic needs met. Because otherwise, we will be dealing with placement breakdowns, children not feeling loved and accepted for who they are, and children feeling misunderstood and unheard. So again, this is consistent with the negative attachment implications for lack of response by caregiver. And that's what I mean. If caregivers are not responding to children's negative behaviours in an emotionally attuned way, which I will talk about more in the presentation. So when children feel connected to their caregivers through moments of laughter, play, and physical contact, they release pent-up feelings of frustration and powerlessness. I know for some children in foster care, the physical contact piece can be difficult, particularly if there was sexual abuse. But again, most children, and all children, they need that physical contact with their caregiver. And again, if there are issues, it's about assessing that slowly and looking at what is comfortable for them. And I will look at play techniques in this presentation to support that process. So during moments of connection, children often release tears, anger, tantrums, and other feelings that are often viewed as them being challenging or disobedient. So that can happen that, your child is coming home from school and you're saying, okay, I'm going now to 2 hours, no work, no mobile phone. I'm going to play with them. I'm going to connect with them. And then next thing, your child is like screaming, demanding, pushing you or hitting you. And I suppose I know myself, even with knowing the theory, that is very, very hard to tolerate. And, so if you do need a minute to yourself, it is important to take that. But again, what the theory would say on connection is that once you have connection with the child as well, all of the pent up feelings that they have been holding in all day at school for whatever reason will come up when you, their primary caregiver, is close to them. And I think that's a very important thing for parents that we work with and foster carers to understand. The child is not pushing you away. The child is releasing all of the pent-up feelings that have built up in school over the day. And again, I know when I talk to my own children, which I hope live in a good enough home, is that, at school, any dynamic in the yard, someone could say mean things, someone could push them. Teachers and their reward systems, I know, have my children's minds so preoccupied with it. I mean, that's what I tried to support it when it's going on in the school, but I mean, I just don't agree with those reward systems. And I know how children obsess about them. And then if they don't get the reward, So again, you have all of these dynamics going on for every child in school. They don't release them to their teacher. They don't release them to their childminder. And again, it's the example of when children go to, if your child is in a creche and you collect them and they burst into tears, and the childcare worker says, oh, they were fine all day and they were fine until you arrived. I know that can be kind of hurtful, but also the way I look at it is they're not secure enough with the professionals or people minding them or teachers to release all of the emotions that they need to release. And as soon as mom or dad arrives, it's arms around and, the behaviors can start. And it's what I believe is a release of all of the tension that build up in every child all day and need to be released. And they don't, I suppose the key thing is they do not have the language. And again, that was a big focus of my PhD, is play being the language of children. And, up until around 10 or 11, no matter how good they seem at describing things, it is very difficult for them to put language on feelings and emotions that build up. So again, they may need a good cry in your arms and you tell them it's okay to have a good cry, or else they need connection. So these moments, so as I've said, look, when children are, you've put the time aside to be connected to them, and next thing they're pushing you away and they're hitting you. These moments are very difficult for a caregiver to remain connected, because we all want to just sit and have fun and have a nice time. But they are crucial moments for the child. Really, really important moments if we as the caregivers can stay regulated for the child to release pent-up emotions. And after that, normally if they have 10 or 15 minutes to have a good cry, to box a pillow, box a beanbag, or whatever it is to get at the frustration out, that's usually all they need. And then you will get hours of the child being totally fine, in good form, and feeling, I suppose, free of all of that stress that has been building up. So boosting attachment, security, and healing. So now we're moving on to play and just looking at using play to build attachment, security, connection, and to release emotions. Caregivers must recognize and enhance children's positive states. So again, if a child is in good form and wanting to play, it's important that we can tap into that and acknowledge that they're happy about things and that they're enjoying things. Play gives powerful boosts to a child's attachment to security when both child and caregiver engage in this joyful and blissful activity. So again, it's a really positive thing for that child-caregiver relationship, is just to engage in playful activity. The positive emotions help the brain deal with stress and create robust neurological structures that promote children's ability to think about their feelings and regulate affect. Now, attachment play is my absolute obsession at the moment, and has been for the last few years. As you can see, that's what I was writing about on this, and I have published something else there on it recently, and I have another one coming up, which I may be able to share the details with Vesna, and maybe you can access those pieces of research as well. I'm looking at, actually it would be a very good one for me to share with Vesna, a recent one on how attachment play was used in child protection social work, and how attachment play was used to help a foster placement that was at risk of breaking down. So attachment play, connection and healing. So attachment play is based, and again, attachment play, it's not like play therapy. Attachment play is play that all of us adults will be familiar with and have engaged with elements ourselves naturally without even knowing what it is. But I think it's really interesting just to know how beneficial it is, and to understand what is happening and what can happen when we use attachment play to engage with children. So attachment play is based on a particular view about human nature. It is part of a new paradigm of human beings that has been re-emerging in our culture since the 1960s and the humanist movement. In this new model, human beings are inherently loving, compassionate beings who naturally want to help others. So again, the attachment play paradigm, it believes that children, they want to be good, they want to cooperate, they don't want to be hitting out, upsetting things, you know, delaying people getting to work, delaying their parents, delaying getting to school in the morning. They don't want to be doing these things. Again, they just need the connection to help them release the buildup of the feelings and to move forward more positively. And again, you know, I hear all of the time that, oh, the child knows exactly what they were doing and they intended to do that. And I suppose attachment play wouldn't, I suppose, hold that for you, that a child is deliberately trying to upset things. It's kind of like the lower brain is enraged and the child is quite out of control, and he needs support, he or she needs support to regulate. So taking time to connect with our bodies means staying self-connected. Doing activities with movement help us engage better in physical play. Again, as caregivers and for the parents that we work with and our foster carers, we need to be conscious of our own needs. You know, we might need a coffee, we might need more sleep, we might need to get out for a walk, we need to meet with our friends, and we need to do those things and make time as much as we can to do those things, because if we're feeling that we're not getting to do anything, if we're feeling resentful, then that affects our ability to connect with our children. So the more self-connected we are, the more connection we can give to our child. The more connected we are to our bodies, the more likely we will be able to engage in physical play, hugging, rough and tumble, piggyback rides, and wrestling. I know I have 2 boys, and I know they, at the moment, they just love either parent, probably their dad more, playing on the trampoline with them and playing wrestling, because he's way better at it than I am. But they do enjoy that rough and tumble play on the trampoline. And for me, who is not that good at rough and tumble play, but I feel it's very important, the trampoline feels a lot safer for me than being in a room where you could fall off a bed or anything like that. So what is going on for children when they do not cooperate? So this is really important. Again, they're not trying to be difficult. And attachment play would promote that if the child is being difficult, they have an unmet need. So they're either hungry, they haven't slept very well the night before, and that's something I can predict easily now. If my 2 are going to bed at 9 or half 9, it's like they're going to be a nightmare tomorrow, they're going to be very difficult, and they're just not going to be in good form. So I need to be prepared for that. Then if they're hungry, tired, or sick, and I think that's a very difficult one that us parents feel very guilty about. We don't really understand that they might be kind of coming down with a flu or a cold, and then they're out of form and they're very irritable. So again, if we can just tap into and remember that the child has an unmet need, they need to learn something, such as we are. Oh yeah. So again, a good example is they need to learn something. So if they draw on the walls, we say, look, you're not allowed to draw on the walls, but you can draw on the paper. You're not allowed to punch me, but you can punch the beanbag, you could punch your teddies, you could punch the boxing bag. And then they have pent up feelings that they need to release, such as frustration, powerlessness, sadness, and confusion. And at these times, it can be the child to sit on the caregiver's knee and you say, you seem really frustrated and this is very hard for you. Quite often that will result in a bit of giving out and then maybe a cry. And again, it's good to get to the cry where you're holding the child and saying, you know, have a good cry. It's okay to have a good cry. And, you know, you've been feeling a bit frustrated or fed up lately, whatever language you use, just to name the feelings and what is happening. So how to elicit cooperation. So like we discussed, to meet their needs, help them learn what they need to learn, but gentle guidance and offering an alternative, and then helping them release the pent up feelings. So the model, so again, the model uses the same 3 responses for regrettable responses by us. So again, if we're frustrated, we're cranky, we're using threats all the time with discipline, you're going to have to do a timeout, or I'm going to take the TV away for a week, or whatever we're doing. When we are using responses like that, it's pretty clear that we have an unmet need. Like I said, we might need a walk, a coffee, some sugar, whatever it is. And maybe we need to learn something, and we have pent up painful feelings as well that we need to release. Again, we could be stressed with work, having arguments with your partner, or whatever it is. And we have pent up feelings that we need to release. And again, how do we do that? We could talk to a friend, or gain support, or go for a walk or a run. So emotional release. Feelings such as frustration, helplessness, fear, and anxiety, and powerless are released through laughter with play and connection. Again, attachment play would say, follow the laughter and follow the fun. Whenever your children are roaring laughing, and even during times of stress, if you put on something funny, I don't know, ours love the kittens and the cats and the dog on YouTube, stuff like that, stuff that can elicit laughter. The attachment play would say the amount of frustration and stress that is released from our bodies when we are laughing, as well as crying. So again, follow the laughter and follow the play. So boosting attachment security through play. So I'm just going to move quickly because I'm looking at the time. I'm going to move on to talk about, you can maybe look at these. Yeah, so attachment play, play initiated by the child or the parent. Child-led play is preferable, but parents can introduce activities to resolve issues during difficult times. No special equipment is needed. It can take place anytime and anywhere. And as I said, most of you are going to be full of ideas and already familiar with activities and attachment play. Very common ones are hide and seek and peekaboo. And I even my child is nearly 9, and they still absolutely love playing hide and seek and the adult looking for them and giving clues and stuff like that. And from an attachment play perspective, it would say it's like the moment when you and your child make eye contact, and again, like the laughter and the excitement with that again is really powerful in connection. So 9 types of attachment play. So non-directive child-centered play is the best way to become acquainted with the child. Vesna, I could also possibly send you some skills. Oh, I think it's on the back of this book, actually. It is on the back of the book, the skills on non-directive play. And there's a chart there that looks at how to just follow the child's lead in play. So I'm not going to get into too much, but non-directive child-centered play is the best way to become acquainted with the child. And it's also when you're feeling, oh God, I've no play ideas, I don't know what to do. And again, supporting our parents if they're feeling like, oh God, I don't know what to do. I always say, just relax, sit back, allow the child to lead, and it'll be amazing what you will see and how they will be able to direct the play. Again, I know there'll be some children who may not be able to, but typically children are able to have play ideas and for us to follow them. And again, they would say with child-centered play, just name what they're doing. So it's like, oh, you've decided to play with that. You're building that your way. Just, I suppose, just to show your connection with the child. And they say that that just builds the child's self-concept and supports their development in so many ways. Now, symbolic play is very helpful for helping a child deal with trauma. Or, and again, I'd be saying to parents, like minor traumas. Again, if a child got bitten by a dog and they were afraid of a dog, that you could, introduce like soft teddies very simply into the play. And yeah, I suppose one of my kids, when they were young, if you're going through the toileting stages, was just using their teddy on a potty and doing a narrative that the teddy was going to the toilet, and they were just laughing so much that it seemed to help release and dissipate the stress that they had built up with going to the toilet and toilet training, that it was just really, really helpful. And you will see that a lot, that when a parent has been silly and using the child's toy, that the child's laughter can actually help dissipate the stress that they've built up themselves. And I'm sure everyone is familiar with those situations. So contingency play. So this is any activity where the adult's behavior is predictably repeated and contingent on the child's behavior. This is a great way to establish connection. So again, you might have a child who's, you know, not talking to you and they're standing away, but they might be holding a teddy in their hand, and you know they want to connect with you, but they can't really connect with you. And a good example is, you know, the child might throw the doll on the ground and then you're going, ow, that's sore, or that hurts, or, and so you're talking for the doll, and then the child starts laughing. And this can go on for a few minutes, and it helps ease the child in for the relationship. I know as a social worker for years, calling to houses, that would have been a very helpful way, where children would be so terrified of social workers calling to the house that they might be taken away, you know, using play to meet them. And I know that I used to have a little yellow mini car driving around to houses, and children would literally be waiting at the gate then, because I'd have like a few bits of toys in the boot, and you know, they would know that I wasn't coming to question them, that I was just coming to play and learn about them that way. And again, for me, I always learned so much more about children just sitting, playing with them in whatever way they want. Sorry, I know I veered off from the contingency play there. So nonsense play, this is one of my favorites, and this is where the adult just acts ridiculous and really silly. And again, the laughter that occurs from that is so powerful. And when children see their caregiver acting silly or stupid, that they just laugh so much. You know, I have been running around my kitchen like a chicken and trying to get them to eat their dinner at different times. And then another time when, as I put down here, you know, they go through stages of they won't take a bath, they won't get washed, and it becomes so stressful, and you're trying to get them into bed. And then I have literally done that when I'm pretending like I'm a digger and I'm trying to take all the dirt off them. And again, the laughter that occurs with that. And I also did it with teddies, pretending that I was brushing the teddy's teeth and putting on silly voices, and that helped to just dissipate those things. So that kind of looks at it in a very kind of simple way, but again, there's no limits with any type of play to support a child with their issues. Separation games, I've just discussed that, so I'm going to move on. Power reversal games. Again, these are, I suppose, just so helpful in giving the child power, because they do feel so powerless in, you know, in many areas of their life. And then when you have the adult being frightened or weak, and they get to like lock the adult up or tie them up, and have them as their prisoner. Again, the laughter that is released during this time is so therapeutic that it helps release the tension for the child, but it also helps them, especially a child who has suffered abuse, it also helps a child to heal from that adult imposed trauma. So I'm flying now because I'm looking at the time. Oh God. Okay, so the regression games are, regression games. So very often as well, we see children where they start talking back maybe 2 or 3 years earlier, and wanted to be treated like a baby. And quite often parents say, oh, stop that now, you're talking like a baby. But again, I would recommend that you embrace that. And, you know, if they are talking like a baby, you ask them if they want a lullaby and you want to wrap them up in a blanket, or if they want a doll, or if they want a bottle. With children in foster care, I have had children in foster care, their foster carers offer them a bottle at the age of 9 and 10, and then sit and take the bottle night after night and be read a story. And again, it's all those early nurturing experiences that children would have missed out on. So again, when you see the regressive play or the regressive behaviours, I would recommend that you engage with the child in that manner, and support them to work through any, you know, they will do it themselves, and you're just, I suppose, allowing them to be at the developmental stage that they're at. So activities with body contact, again, you know, they can be very powerful in strengthening attachment and bonding. I know parents would say, I see myself, you know, if you've been away from your child all day at work, and just, you know, some physical connection can I suppose really support the child to to so I suppose they can really support the child with those feelings of frustration from separation. So connecting physically through play creates feelings of self-worth, safety and belonging. Okay, so the last and ninth type of attachment play is the cooperative games and activities to help strengthen connection. So again, children often enjoy telling cooperative stories or building block towers. Again, even at nighttime, I would always recommend to foster carers or parents to co-tell a story with the child and try and look at the day. Oh, we got up this morning and what did we do then? And then they come in and they try and co-tell the story of the day. That can be really powerful in helping the child connect their physical activities and their emotions, but also then that storytelling piece with their caregiver. It can be really powerful. Again, opportunities for connection without the threat of losing. So again, you're taking the element of competition out where everyone is cooperative. You know, you could be all working together to keep the balloons in the air, you know, sharing musical chairs or anything like that. So again, cooperative games that support cooperation and activities together can also be very good for sibling rivalry. Which I will leave you to look at the slides. And again, there's a chapter here. And Vesna, I also have another slideshow on sibling rivalry, you know, that I could send to you if anyone on the webinar is interested in more on the sibling rivalry piece, because it is very frustrating and, you know, most caregivers need a lot of support with that. So again, look, attachment play, I would just say, look, just believe, you know, and receive the benefits of it and just practice it, because we all have the skills to do it. It's a non-expert way to engage with children, and it's very, very powerful. So I might leave it now for questions. I'm probably way over time now.
Thank you very much, Lisa, for your really inspirational presentation. It was really interesting. And now I'm inviting you, if you have any kind of questions and comments, to do it in the chat box. I see that just Yvonne shared one of resource she found useful. It's Amber Elliott, Why Can't My Child Behave? Fabulous resource, attachment time, rhythmical calming, etc. So thank you, Yvonne, for sharing. And also during your presentation, I've been like just writing some of your sentences. I think it's really useful, and I find it useful to be shared with the parents and the foster care, especially this one, follow the fun and laughter and the play. I believe it's really inspirational. And also this emotional release of children with the parents they have connection to, even if it's anger and a lot of emotions there, parent gets stressed, I understand, but this is a really, like, I would say, encouraging information for them. It's happening because of the connection they have. So I think it's really useful to be shared. So thank you very much for all of really useful things you shared with us today. I don't see anything for now happening in the chat. Lisa, we can stay in touch after the webinar, and you can share with me all of this great information. Can I use the PowerPoint presentation also to upload it? So forgive me if you have already said, but can we get the slides, please?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yes, so I will upload the recording of the webinar as well with the slides of the webinar. So people are, I believe that people are free to use it. Okay, great.
My email is there if anyone has any questions or if anyone's looking for resources or anything like that, okay? And I can also maybe send you the recent publication on using attachment play in child and family social work and in fostering, okay?
Yes. I believe it will be really useful, and I will upload everything to the webinar page where you registered for the webinar, so you will be finding it in the next days. So again, thank you, Lisa, for sharing your time with us here. It was really a pleasure to meet you, and we will of course stay in touch.
Right.
And as a final note, if you want to receive a certificate of attending this webinar, you can write You can write it, of course. It's always important.
Yes, I will take my certificate. Thank you.
Yes, you also, Lisa. And all the
Okay.
participants, they can write it to the info@childhub.org and you will receive it on the email. So thank you very, very much. And I wish you a really nice rest of the day.
Okay, thanks. Have fun. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. How do I get out now? How do we go?